Greetings from MWN.com. Dr.M.Wilson, formerly Vice Principal and Head of Department of Commerce, Nagercoil is delighted in presenting this session. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel MWN.com. Production function is a concept in economics that explains the relationship between physical output and input. Output refers to the number of goods or services produced in a given time period. Input, on the other hand, is the number of resources like materials, labor, interest on capital is used to produce output. In economics, a production function relates physical output of a production process to physical inputs or factors of production. It is a mathematical function that relates the maximum amount of output that can be obtained from a given number of inputs, generally capital and labor. The production function method is an economic concept that analyses how inputs combine to produce output and is a fundamental tool in production theory. The four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. These can be considered the input factors of production. The output is known as product that are produced. The diagram clearly explains various factors of production and the output. A production function describes how the firm transforms inputs, such as labor and capital, into outputs, such as goods and services. Choosing the best production function for the firm is an important decision that affects costs, revenues, and profits. The four main characteristics of a production function are sustainability, complementarity, distinctiveness, and production time. The two laws of production are the law of return to scale and the law of variable proportion. The rules of production define the technologically feasible methods of increasing output. The output can be grown in a variety of ways. Laws of production in economics deals with the concepts of cost and producer's equilibrium. It is an important aspect of economics as it helps a business determine the level of output that leads to maximum profits. It also defines the various variable and fixed costs of the firm. Production function formula. A common form of a production function is Q equals AFK, L, where Q represents the total output, A represents technology, FK, L represents the function of inputs. K for capital and L for labor. The diagram clearly shows how the output increases due to the increase in labor and capital. It also shows after certain point of increase in labor and capital the output will not increase from the optimum level and further increase may marginally reduce the output. Cobb-Douglas production function. This model states that the relationship between output and production inputs, also known as factor inputs. It is used to calculate ratios of inputs to one another for efficient production, and to estimate technological change in production methods. The three-factor Cobb-Douglas production function is Q equals F, L, K, M, where L equals labor, K equals capital, M equals materials and supplies, and Q equals product. Example. 1 If alpha equals 0.3, then a 1% increase in capital usage would lead to approximately a 0.3% increase in output. The Cobb-Douglas production function has some important properties. It implies that the shares of capital and labor in output are constant and equal to alpha and beta, respectively, under perfect competition. Example. 2 If the Cobb-Douglas utility function is U equals X alpha Y beta, where X and Y are the quantities of two goods consumed, and the prices of the goods are PX and PY, respectively, then the consumer's budget constraint is PXX plus pi equals M, where M is the income. The three stages of production are characterized by increasing marginal returns, decreasing marginal returns, and negative marginal returns. The short run is the period where only the variable inputs can be changed. The long run is a period that is long enough, allowing for all inputs to be changed. Long run and short run. Production function. A long run production function studies the impact on output when all the factors of production can be changed simultaneously and in the same proportion. It means all costs like fixed cost and variable cost are all changing in the long run. The underlying theory to the long run production function is the returns to scale. Short run is a period when some factors of production are fixed and some are variable. Output can be increased only by increasing the application of the variable factor. In the short run, the scale of production remains constant. The long run is a period when all factors of production are variable. The diagram clearly shows the long run and short run cost in terms of labor and capital. Returns to scale. Returns to scale in economics refers to the degree of change in input factors changes the output proportionally and concurrently during the production process. It reflects the quantitative change that applies in the long term using similar technology. Returns to scale is a term that refers to the proportionality of changes in output after the amounts of all inputs in production have been changed by the same factor. Technology exhibits increasing, decreasing, or constant returns to scale. Returns to scale occur in the long run. It describes the increase in production relative to the increase in the factors of production. On the other hand, the law of returns states that in the short run, initially, the output is increasing, and later on, it starts diminishing. Economies of scale occur in a business when costs per unit of a product decreases as the business expands. Diseconomies of scale happen when production costs increase per product as the business expands. Companies must balance the economies of scale versus diseconomies of scale while they are looking to grow. Economies of scale refer to these reduced costs per unit arising due to an increase in the total output. Diseconomies of scale, on the other hand, occur when the output increases to such a great extent that the cost per unit starts increasing. 3 stages of returns. 1. Increasing returns. It means that the output will be greater than input values. 2. Diminishing returns. Decreasing or diminishing returns to scale shows a percentage of increase in inputs higher than the percentage increase in outputs. For example, if the input goes up by 30% and output goes up by 21%. 3. Negative returns. A decreasing returns to scale occurs when the proportion of output is less than the desired increased input during the production process. For example, if input is increased by 5 times, output is reduced 2 times.